You've heard about Blossom and Root, and you know it's a fantastic program, literature rich, amazing books. But you've maybe downloaded it, you looked at the sample, and it just feels so overwhelming. There's so many options when it comes to what you can do each week, and I get it. As homeschooling mamas, we want to make sure that we give our children the best education, but that doesn't always mean doing all the things. So, as a family who likes to keep things simple but really impactful for our learning, I'm going to show you how I actually plan Blossom and Root. What I plan, what I don't use, and how I tackle every single week using Blossom and Root for literature. And it is seriously one of our favorite curriculums that we use. The book list is so fantastic, but there are so many options. So let's dive into exactly how we tackle Blossom and Root and what we keep and what we get rid of. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Brandy Miles. We are a secular homeschooling family. We have a 7-year-old going into 2nd grade. We have a 2-year-old who's hanging out. He's actually doing Blossom and Root the early years, year 1. And my husband and I both homeschool our kids as I'm a full-time working mom as well. If that sounds like you and your family, or you get so much value out of this video, please go ahead and hit subscribe and get notified each week when I release a new video. Okay, so now let's talk about Blossom and Root. I used Blossom and Root year 1, and it was fantastic. It was one of our favorite curriculums. The book list was fantastic. The movies, the videos, we watched stuff that we would have never picked as art for ourselves, which is an anime, and we would have never watched that as a family, but our whole family fell in love with it. So the creators of Blossom and Root truly do a wonderful job of curating such a wonderful book list that is very inclusive to different backgrounds, different cultures, and has you step out and try some new things. So we definitely wanted to continue with that for year 2. And as we did, I wanted to make a few changes that I learned from using it last year. So I want to take you through how we tackle it on for the whole year, but really at a weekly glance. So when I first get the whole bundle, because if you watch my video, we also use this for science, but the main things that I do is we have the parent's guide. So I went on and printed that out and bound it. Then we have the student book. I did not use the student book last year, and we were using a School Nest 1st grade notebook, and it was just so overkill of me rewriting things and everything. So this year I printed out her notebook, the student book, and I'm so excited I did as I was flipping through it. And then you'll see they call them adventure poems, and this is my daughter's favorite part of Blossom and Root. And so they used to be, since we cut them out, I didn't want them to be in her notebook. So instead, we've made it like fun. I designed her cover on Canva, and then all the poems I printed out are in here. So instead of being also in the student book, we'll pull out our poems on Thursday and do those. Okay, so those are the components I have, those 3. Now, when I first get it, I bound everything, print everything out, get that bound. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go through the book list. So there are so many books when we talk about Blossom and Root. It's very heavy literature based, of course. And so with that means like, which books are we going to use? Which ones are we going to toss? And one thing that I love about this year is this is the new edition for year 2. And in here, what she's done is we have the contemporary path and the classic path, which I was super excited about because some of the books I wasn't like super excited about. But now with the contemporary path, we've picked some from classic path and contemporary, which I think is a really nice addition to this new edition of year 2. Okay, so week 1, you'll see that I have a lot of this highlighted. This is where I went through and put which books we own, which ones we're going to get from the library. So I put an L beside of the ones that are at the library. And then I put the other L's beside any of the other ones because she gives you optional additional options or alternatives. So if you can't find that book, chances are you can find one of the other ones. We like to include the other books because I'll read our recommended reading the first day and then one of the additional readings each day after. And then we also put any of them in our book basket for the week. So I try to get as many of the books as possible, but it's not always. And then I go through and put which ones we own. Or as I'm going through here, I'll find ones that I'm like, oh, I really want to add that to our library. So I do that at the beginning of the year, months before, going in order. When I was going through, the first ones are more picture books. Then we get into our more read aloud chapter books. And so, like I said, now we can choose between contemporary and classic. Once you get to week 10, this is where you get to start to choose classic or contemporary. So, an example of this is the classic pathway is The Wind in the Willows. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about Wind in the Willows, and we do have it on a Yodo audiobook, I believe. But then the contemporary path is The Skunk and the Badger. And I saw so many good things about this, and it looks right up my daughter's alley. So a lot of these, I sat down with her, read the info about the books, and let her choose. But we did, so with that one, we didn't go with the classic. But then when you get into week 16 through 20, it was The Wonderful Wizard of Oz or A Rover Story. We already have The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. My daughter really likes it. I have that really nice edition that has like the glasses you pull out and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be using that one. And then we have the classic or contemporary, which was The Hobbit or The Very, Very Far North. We have tried to read The Very, Very Far North. We're just not into that. But my husband and I are both really excited to do some fun things with The Hobbit. So we're going with The Hobbit. And then week 30 through 33, we have where it's called for this one, it's called the gentle pathway or the older pathway. So in those, it is broken up a little bit different. And with that one, it's The Tale of Despero or Sweet, the story of the girl and her monster. We're actually doing that one because we already had it on our list of ones to read. So that's the one we're going with. So then that's the book list. You have some options with the chapter book. Some are just like, hey, this is what it is. So 34 through 36. There's only one option, which is Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. We already had this book. We haven't read it yet, so that was easy. But most of the time, you have many different options. We also get into trickster tales, which we love, and we're exploring like tall tales and personification and similes and onomatopoeia. So really cool topics this year. I love the book list. Excited about that. But that's the first thing I do is decide which books do we have access to, which ones are we going to purchase, and then which ones with the contemporary or classic path are we going to choose? Then we actually get into the weeks. So I'm going to show you what we're doing for week 1 because I've already planned that. As I'm recording this, we start tomorrow. And whenever you get into here, and I'll show you this, but whenever you get into each week, you have so many different options. So week 1 is called Exploring Onomatopoeia. You have your literature section to read to your kids. So you have the recommended. And then you have additional. Like I said, we like to try to get as many of the additional as possible, but we don't just go buy books to buy them. We try to get them from the library, or I'll pick some that, oh, this is actually one I've been wanting to add. So we always start with the literature, and we try to read one of the books Monday through Thursday. We try not to do schooling on Friday. So Monday through Thursday, so 4 of the books we're going to read. Then you have your literature project, which we'll get to. The creative extension, which I'm just going to tell you, we're not doing that. Like last year, I tried to do everything. And this is an additional project that you can do that I think adds on to the whole project for the year. And that's just one we're skipping. So you can see, like, I'm already finding things like, how can we still make this fun, but also not overkill? So we're skipping the creative extension. Then it's geography, which is optional. The journal prompt, the narration, copywork, wordplay, word lists, adventure poem, and additional readings. So each week for us stays true in a certain sense. So I want to show you exactly how this would work with us in week 1. So with week 1 and all of our weeks, we try to keep the same format. Mondays are journal prompt. Tuesdays are narration. Wednesdays are copywork. And Thursday is our poem, our adventure poem. So that's like what stays true. So we know each Monday we're doing the journal prompt. Each Tuesday we're doing narration. On Wednesdays we do copywork. And then on Thursday is the poem adventure. So that stays pretty true through and through. Now, when we get to the options for projects or literary projects and things like that, that's where we get a little bit different. So this week, there's a literature project and a geography project. Now, we love geography. We do a lot of stuff with geography. So this won't always be true if we do the geography project or not. For this week's project with week 1, it's the onomatopoeia field trip. So with that, we decided we're going to the zoo. It's our first week back to homeschool, ending it on Friday with the zoo trip. We're really excited about it. So we're going to do that. Now, there is a geography prompt. We're not going to do that. I really want to keep this year really simple but effective. So like doing the zoo with the onomatopoeia is going to be super fun. So then let me take you into week 2. So with that week, Monday, we're going to read the recommended book plus the journal prompt. Tuesday, we're going to read another one of the books with the narration prompt. And you can find those in the student notebook. So in the student notebook, it makes it super easy. So you're not going back and forth. You'll see that you have the journal prompt, the narration prompt, the word list, and then your copy work. And then I told you that we put the poems in Riley's own little notebook. So she has that. Now, with that being said, the word list we don't really use. We do all about reading, so we don't really need this. I will have her just go through and read them. And if there's any of them that she doesn't know, I will tell her dad, and then they can review them during all about reading if we think they need to. If they've been over these words and she's not getting them, then I'll just let him know, and they'll know that that's one word that we need to review. But we don't spend any time doing the word play or anything with Blossom and Root because we do all about reading. So it doesn't make sense for us to double dip on that. Otherwise, just say, hey, can you read these words to me? And those words do match up with the poem a lot of times. So we do like to review it for that, but we don't spend a lot of time on it. When we get to week 2, we have different projects, of course. So this is where I never am set on like, we're going to do literature project 1 or 2. I'm always like looking at what is going on in our entire homeschool that week, what is going on in our life, and what can we fit in to make this really fun. So when I go to week 2, it's exploring similes, and there's a silly similes game. Whenever there's a game, I'm going to try to do it. My kids love to do games. So that is like something super simple that we can put together. It's with Post-it notes and stuff. Not a big deal. We're going to do that. And then for geography, there's the simile street where you can do a 3-dimensional map with Legos or anything like that. We're not going to do that. So with geography, we learn geography. Otherwise, I'm skipping that. But I'm super excited to do the simile game. She's going to be excited about that. Then we move into week 3, and it's the same thing. But here we have a little bit more options. So the literature project is the personification station. Then we have the neighborhood personification. So we may actually do both for week 3 because the personification station looks really fun. But also we go on walks every day. So the neighborhood personifications can just be part of our walk. So with that week, we probably will do 2, but it's because we can fit it into what we're already doing. Now, when we get into week 4, this is where we get into the literature project, and it's more like a crafty and like moving puppets and stuff. And then there's extension ideas. The literature project this week is exploring hyperbole and tall tales, and then it's create a moving picture scene. We're probably not going to do that. We do art. I don't feel like we need to do that. But then it says, want to take a rabbit trail and deep dive into hyperbole and tall tales for several weeks? Use the ideas below. So then she has these. Now, one of the things when I was looking at this is we're not going to spread it over multiple weeks. But the literature section, I'm definitely including those in our basket. So we're going to have those in our book basket. Also, with the activity ideas and the movie we have Encanto. So on that Saturday after we do hyperboles, we're going to watch Encanto. That's not a big deal, and that keeps the kids a little bit busy for a while so I can get some other stuff done. And then she has the activity ideas, which includes make peg dolls, make another moving picture scene, paint your favorite scene, dress up and act out, have a tall tale theme party, brainstorm games, party snacks inspired. So like you could do all that. We're not. So that's where you can choose what you can and don't want to do and then make it yours. So, and another example is when we get the Hobbit. I haven't even looked to see what the activities are for the Hobbit, but we may not even do any of the activities that she suggests for that, but we know that there's like a little Hobbit town where you can go and stay in these Airbnbs that look like little Hobbit homes and do like Hobbit tea parties and all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to do that. So we may not do any of the extensions that she gives. So that's what I really want to encourage you is that it is such a beautiful literature rich curriculum. The book lists are fantastic. There's a lot of options. And so you don't have to do everything. One thing that we do every single week is Mondays, our journal prompt, Tuesdays are our narration, Wednesdays are copywork, and then on Thursdays, we do the adventure poem. Then we can fit in any of the other activities. Like the first week, we're going to do the onomatopoeia at the zoo. And so that's how we really tackle Blossom and Root. Very different than last year when I was trying to do everything. And it was just too much. So find a rhythm that works for your family and use it because it truly is one of the most wonderful book lists that I've ever found. And we love this curriculum. So I hope that helps you really tackle and understand how we use Blossom and Root. And hopefully it helps you figure out your method for using Blossom and Root. So if you got value out of this, go on and hit subscribe so you get notification of all my videos. If you want to see how we plan out our entire week, type a week in the comments and I'll show you my full planner of how we go through all of our curriculums and get everything fit in 4 days a week for our main curriculum. And then we love to use Friday and Saturdays as our enrichment days and our fun activities, our hands-on. If you want to see that, just type weekly into the comments and I'll make sure to get that video for you as well.